Hey, it's Willie Armelini from Flowers and Scents with your floral industry buzz. Okay, today I'm going to interview Leanne Kesler from the Floral Design Institute. Somebody's got to train all these designers and florists how to properly create florist arrangements. And Leanne is one of those people that does it. So let her tell you about what she does. So, Leanne Kesler. Okay, Leanne Kesler from the Floral Design Institute, which sounds very academic and official, by the way.
The
and
institution.
okay, well, I've been looking forward to having this conversation because you and I have been bumping into each other at the conventions over the years. And I always thought it was curious, or I was always curious, like, okay, what's this all about? And so I figured the best way to do that is have you tell us what it's all about. So the Floral Design Institute is a design institute. You train designers, I guess.
Correct. We are the largest privately held flower school, and that's all we do is teach floral design to people that either want to begin working in the career or begin their own businesses in the career. And we have students literally all over the world that join us for their studies. Kind of amazing because it started out as a super tiny little school. And then, well, to give you that idea, when I bought it in 1988, we would have 45 students for the entire year.
Okay, so it existed before you.
It started in 1969. We're the oldest school also, which is kind of amazing. 69 it started. I started teaching for them in 86 and then bought it in 88.
Okay.
And David joined in with us in 94, and that's when we decided to expand. And we opened in Seattle, a second location in 96. And then we started online education, and you're going to laugh, in 1996 by way of VHS tapes. So we've been doing online education for a very long time.
But it is in person and or online, I guess, huh?
Yeah, both of them, definitely, because I like the in-person. It allows us to test things and to see people's skills and to experiment with new lessons. And then we can take it online and expand it to people that they can't leave for the period of time. They can't give up their money earning capabilities, so to speak. And yet by having the in-person, we have so many people who do the online for their basic studies, get their initial certification, and then come join us in person for advanced studies so we can then evaluate that it works. It's been pretty fun and fabulous.
And how many students might you have in a year now?
We're pretty careful about that because if you
Okay.
don't give that one-on-one attention, I don't think that they thrive as well as they should. And it's very important to me that we don't just create starving artists. There's a faction of our industry that just makes pretty but no money. And I don't want that to be my graduate. So when we do in person, we actually limit that to 9 so that it's very, very, very cozy. And then with our online, there's 11 of us that take care of them. And we try to make it so that at any given time, there's never more than 200 people so that that just keeps, again, that
Huh.
intimate education opportunity.
So you have a bunch of teachers, not
We
just
do.
you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I get to be the queen bee, and I love to teach, and I teach a little bit with everyone, but we have amazing instructors, and I find that has been a better experience for students. When the school first started, I was the only teacher, and the complaint we would get, owners would call me up and they'd say, Leanne, if I hear one more time, my teacher said, And that's true because whoever's paying your paycheck gets to be the one that said. So we found when we added in the additional instructors, they got different viewpoints. They got a more well-rounded education. Um, of course, I still think my way is the best way, but every teacher brings a little something different to
Sure.
it. We've got Michael out of Florida, who owns a store, does a large business with sympathy work, is incredibly active in the design world. And we've got Dove in Texas, who has been a florist for many, many, many years and then mentored through AIFD. Then we've got Michelle here in Portland, who um, she works with PFCI, she works with AIFD, she is a certified judge evaluator, owned her own company, came to the floral world by way of marketing. So she's got a view of the outside world plus the creative world. Then we've got Annie, who owns two different floral companies and then shares her time with us. And Anna, so Annie and Anna, who owns an exclusive wedding, real high-end fancy pants weddings. Um, then there's Ricky, Susie, Caledonia, and
Wow.
then David still pokes his nose in. But yeah, it gives students different viewpoints based on different parts of the nation and also different perspectives of design. And then overall, I just make sure that we toe the line as for best practices in the industry. Um, keeping it so that we teach everything. So for example, when the no foam movement came up, we do embrace that, but we also teach foam and we teach other alternatives because the student needs to be exposed to it all and then make their own choices for what their business needs to be. So as a school, we really try to cover the spectrum.
Hmm. And who's your ideal student? Is that somebody who's in the industry, has been designing or been working at a florist, or is it totally somebody who knows nothing about it?
Both.
Yeah.
That's been so amazing. But then you see this, our industry is changing at light speed. I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh. So we have people who are store owners who have been in the industry forever, who say, you know what, the world changed around me. I got to figure this out.
Hmm.
And so some of them come in for private classes because they don't want to take a month away from their store. Some will join us just for advanced studies. And then we have the person, maybe it's their very first career. They graduated high school and rather than going to college, they want a vocational school to go straight into the earning category. So that has been a joy because if you were to come into my classroom, you would see students from 18 years old to 70 years old, and they mingle and get along. And the shared perspectives, it's just amazing to me that you can be so diverse. Male, female, young, old, first career, encore career, and so that's why I don't get bored. Like, I'm still doing it and loving it.
Interesting, interesting. So are you accredited? Is there an accreditation?
Is we are licensed through the Department of Education, and so we have to report in annually placement ratios. If we go below an employment ratio, we go on probation because we are supposed to be preparing people for employment. Uh, and they
Okay.
analyze that. All of our teachers are licensed. They all have to be fully licensed educators. Um, yes, some days I really hate the Department of Education. And you deal with the IRS and you deal
Well,
with the
is there still one?
I know. Well, there's that issue. But since we don't take any federal funding, it doesn't affect us.
Okay.
So I'm very happy about that. But
Good.
yeah, no, the Department of Education keeps us on our toes. And then AIFD, Education Partners, we are a member there, which they also analyze. And one of their requirements is that not only do you have to have licensed educators, but you need to have accredited educators through them. So much of our team also is ordained through the American Institute of Floral Designers. And I believe in education, and so I believe in certification. As much as I get frustrated by it sometimes, I think the rules are there for a reason to make sure you're doing your job. If I didn't have to analyze every March, hello, every single March, I have to make sure I've reached out to every student. Did you get a job?
Did you
Where
get
you
it?
working? What are you making? And so that's twofold. One, I kind of love it because I reconnect with them. And two, I kind of hate it because it scares me. It's like, what happens some year if we don't
Mm.
have placement? But I will say the industry is, I mean, you hear the doom and you hear the, oh, but I think it's because statistics are out of date and the new florist is forging a new path. So I can tell you employment is there. They're doing well. They're thriving. Um, is it the same as it was 20 years ago? No, it's a different world.
Probably
And
shouldn't be.
I'm excited about that.
And there's the famous Basement Betty sort of moniker that has. Well, I've written about it extensively at some point about the fact that the Basement Betties have a lot more respect than they used to have. They used,
That's a derogatory term that we don't allow because so many of us have discovered that a retail storefront may be what you dream of. It has a glamour to drive by and go, look at that, that's mine. Oh my gosh. It also has such lifestyle restrictions. And I will say this new generation has set parameters on my career and my life that I've been forced to learn how to deal with. I will be honest. When I had my first employee explain to me they don't work Mondays because they don't like Mondays, and I had another employee explain to me that they would strictly be off-site and I would never know where they are. And you know what? They're some of my best employees because
they
they do the
manage their
job
life. They manage their life. Yeah.
and they're happy. And that's what we've discovered when we do hire teachers. We have people who have lives and then we put the puzzle pieces together. And I find a happy teacher is a better teacher, which then leads to happy students, which leads to happy people in the industry. And I think if you go back to when I started, I can remember Valentine's Day going in on the morning of the 13th and not going home until the night of the 14th and surviving on donuts and priding myself. I can remember picking up, because it's before internet, picking up the phone, calling different florists. Are you guys open? Are you still working? Thinking, oh, aren't we cool? We're working so hard. How stupid was I? That was just wrong. And so I am thrilled to see that this new generation is saying, you know what, this is how much money I need. This is what I need to work, and the rest is my life. And
Yeah.
I think God bless them.
Yeah, well, we've, having been in the industry a long time, I can relate to that because loading trucks and trying to find trucks and at the middle of the night, and when you had more flowers than you knew what to do with, and where am I going to find another truck? And
Exactly.
like you say, leaving home before Valentine's Day, and in our case, it was like 10 days before or a
Right?
dozen
Because
days
you're on a
before.
different schedule.
Uh, Not seeing the light of day for a long time. So such is life. Hey, I think Louisiana is the only state that requires a florist license.
That is true, although they just stopped it. So now there are no states that require a florist license, which is kind of interesting because for similarity, think about restaurants, which would require a food handler's permit, which is a base level of knowledge. Um, but think about how expensive that is to enforce
Hmm.
and who and how and what. Um, I prefer rather than requiring, although wouldn't it be nice if they required it because it would make my job even bigger.
Sure.
But rather than requiring it, I really like promoting the educated person more positively. Just guess what? I am a certified floral designer, or I am AIFD, or I am accredited, rather than you must be. Because I think if we approach it in a positive manner, it will get us further. But it is interesting that, yeah, Louisiana canceled theirs, so there is nothing any longer.
Okay, I'll have to update my brain here because that was I always
It was
found that interesting.
relatively
There was only
new.
one state that did it. It was like, why?
I I have announced that so many times and I had to change my thought on that. But then think about, we used to say everybody make sure you cut underwater, make sure you use warm water. And then the science changed. It's like, okay, make sure it's cold water, never cut underwater.
Oh, is that the new one? I'm stuck in the cut underwater part.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's been almost 5 years now. It's been a little while that they've discovered that you introduce more bacteria cutting underwater than the benefit of dealing with the air pocket. And I do believe partly it's because our processing has gotten better with the different pre-treatments
Sure.
and foods and such. So it's a combination, but yeah, we had to totally, because especially with online, it's pre-recorded, we had to totally refilm everything to
Oh.
make meet best practices because we had taught cutting underwater and warm water for 20 years.
Yeah, again, being in the business, people know I'm in the flower business. So, all right, should I put aspirin in my water, or should I
Yeah.
put pennies in my water, or should I beat the stems with a hammer, or what should I do? And I'm basically say just cut them, put them in water, put some preservative in there, and have at it. If the water gets funky, change it.
Ironically, so much of it has some validity, but not really. So like the aspirin does lower the pH. And so that's what your preservative does, your flower
Right.
food. And the penny, when it was truly a copper penny, copper
Uh,
has antibacterial qualities. Well, today's pennies don't. So, and we might not even have them any longer. Who
yeah,
knows?
that could be.
Right. I like
Um,
the old wise tales because you can always find some snippet of accuracy, but at the same time, you know what? We have better.
well, certainly growers are doing a better job at the farm level of processing and cooling and all the things that the whole industry chain has gotten better at. So the flowers you're getting and the florists are getting are probably been handled much better than they ever were.
I would agree that, I mean, the farm, the transportation, the wholesalers, everybody has upped their game and it shows in the product. I mean, you remember when we had to wire every single rose before you sent it out? And who would wire a rose now?
Yeah, you don't need to. In fact, the stems are so big, the head's never going to fall off.
Exactly true.
Wow. Hey, what's the most fun thing about what you're doing is just having students graduate or what?
I guess the most fun for me, and it's a combo of real time and virtual time, but seeing the successes of our students. I'll be trolling on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, and I'll go, "Oh my gosh, that's one of my babies,"
Hmm.
and they're out doing something amazing. Or David and I'll be traveling, and I'll go in and to a flower shop, and I'm like, da 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 da, just looking around, and I'll have somebody come out from the back room saying, "I heard your voice. It's Leanne." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how do you know?" I mean, even we were traveling, this was a few years ago, but we were traveling in London and I was touring different flower schools because I wanted to make sure ours was best. So you want to make sure. Um, and I had arranged to visit Paula Pryke and her school. And she knew I was coming, but I said, "Let me just be anonymous. I'm not trying to, if it's okay with you." And she's like, "Sure, fine." And I walk in, and the next thing I know, I hear, "Leanne." One of my graduates was her personal assistant. Like, gosh. So I think that's the most gratifying is just seeing the successes that are out there and knowing there's hope for our industry. Because I hear the doomsday from us that have been in it forever. And then I see the light of day from a fresh perspective because they don't see what we've always done. Instead, they're writing a new route and changing the story and making entirely different dialogue. And I think I would have to say that is the most favorite part of the job and why I keep doing it, because I find it fascinating and I get to live vicariously. I always tell the students I need somebody to be incredibly successful so they can afford to push my wheelchair around
And where do you get your flowers from?
everywhere.
Yeah.
Uh, I love to buy local because of support the farm. We love to buy American grown, again, support your country. But then there's reality that we get a lot from South America, we get a lot from China, we get from Africa. And I think it's important to expose students to that. And then they can make a decision. Who are they going to buy from? And we'll even compare. Okay, this rose came from a local grower. This one came from a California grower. This one came out of Ecuador. What are the different properties? Because there's benefits to each and for different reasons. And then there's the reality of summer months. You can buy local and be happy campers. Come Valentine's Day, that's a little bit more difficult. And so you have to be well-rounded. I remember it wasn't a graduate of ours, it was just a fellow florist, had opened a flower shop, I don't know, 8 blocks from my house, 9 blocks from my house. And it was so cool. It was organic flowers for special people, but
Hmm.
they were ahead of the game. This was 15 years ago. You couldn't buy enough organic product.
Right.
And then she changed her tagline to special flowers for organic people. And I thought, okay, at least you're trying to up into but even then it just didn't work because she sunk too much money in before she could find that market, which that market now exists in some cities.
Yeah.
Portland has people that do that, but she was too early. She was the first.
Yeah. Well, I always encourage people to buy local if you can. You know, if it's there, why not? It makes total sense.
It does.
It
Yeah.
makes total sense. It's fresh product. It's usually well done, and it's supporting somebody local. Hey, Leanne, how many schools are there? The only one I'm familiar with, I think, is Phil Rudolph has one, right? Or
Phil is working out of a design center, I believe. He actually shut his actual school when he moved to Sedona. And then I think it's Sedona. He's living with Kathy now. I don't know. Anyway, but when they moved, and so he works through a design center and does, I don't know how many classes a year. So there's him. There's not a lot of us.
I didn't
Most
know. I'm
schools
not aware
have
of
shut
many,
down.
really.
When I started in Portland, we have 5, and now we have 1. And when I started in Seattle, there was like 7 or 8, and now there are none. Um, it is a labor of love.
Yeah,
It's not, for those that are looking for it to be $1 million, let me get rich and retire. It's not what it is.
no.
You can make a living, you can be happy, but you have to decide, is your life more important than being the richest person on earth? And so my life is more important. I need to pay my bills. I need to make sure and pay my staff, but do I
Yeah,
need to be making much more than that? No, I'm not
okay.
a camper. So
Well,
yeah, there's not a lot.
I was happy to see you get an award at, I think it was AFID I was at.
No, at SAF, I
Oh, it was
couldn't,
SAF, right?
the Tommy Bright, that
Yeah,
That
that was,
was an incredible surprise that the staff managed to keep secret from me, and I still don't know how they did that. Now I never trust them for the
even
rest of.
David kept it from you, yes.
I know. It's like, how did that happen? So that was quite the
Well,
honor.
yeah, and congratulations on that one. And I'm happy I'm always happy when people get awards because it's something that you work hard at these things and there's not a lot of patting on the back. So occasionally it's nice to get a pat on the back.
That's true. It was a wonderful treat. I will agree.
Okay. Um, all right. So I think my only last question, I think, would be how much does something like this cost? You don't have to discuss price, but they pay you the real whoever's coming in. Somebody's paying you to train them because you're
Right.
paying a staff, of course.
Exactly. And we've got various levels. If they want to come and just dabble and test the water, see what they want to do, you can do it for as little as $250 and just say, oh, do I want to? And then you pursue it. Now, if you want to invest in full certification, get the full teacher support, move on into a career, then you're going to be closer to $5,000. And then if you do it from home, it's less expensive because you're not paying for my space
Right.
and I'm not providing you flowers, but then you've got to find flowers
Sure.
and source them locally, which I'm finding a lot of our students now are kind of a combo florist and flower farmer, which I think goes just to the whole
Hmm.
farmers market mentality of people. People are growing more vegetables, so they're growing more flowers. And so a lot of them are even using their own product as they study their lessons.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, as I told you, 20 minutes would go quite fast when we
Isn't
start.
it amazing?
And I try to keep these short enough so people actually watch them. And if they want to find you,
Easy.
floraldesigninstitute.com, is that what it is?
Pluraldesigninstitute.com. And if they don't want to type out all the T's, flowerschool.com takes you to the exact same place.
Nice, nice URL. Okay. Flowerschool.com. All right, well, I'll throw them up on the site when I publish this, which I will do next week. And happy Mother's Day, I guess, coming up here real soon.
I know, isn't it weird to not be working on Mother's Day?
Yeah, well, from all indications, it was a good holiday, at least from the standpoint of the growers, the importers, truckers, and everybody. Wholesalers seemed to be happy. Product was tight but available. There's so much new product out there in the market, so many new varieties that
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
glad I'm not a breeder because trying to keep track of all this and the latest and the greatest. My yellow's better than my last year's yellow, and all those sort of things. So.
So true.
But the designs are very cool, and it's not simple. I know that because as an artist, I don't claim to be a designer, but I'll claim to be an artist, and making an arrangement is not simple. You can put a lot of flowers in there, but some people really make it look like something, and others don't.
And that's where education is everything. Getting your elements, your principles, your artistic concepts, then make it your own, as opposed to a hot mess.
Hot mess. Okay. Well, all right, Miss Leanne. Nice to talk to you. It's been my pleasure, and I hope you get some reaction from this. And it's been
Well, thanks
fun. In
for inviting
regards
me,
to David,
really. And I'm sure we'll see you this summer.
you will, you will, because it's our season's about to start. So,
Exactly. Okay.
regards to my friend David, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Ciao. Nice URL. Okay. Flowerschool.com. All right. Well, I'll throw them up on the site when I publish this, which I will do next week.